Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special launch edition of NetApp On Air. As always, I am your host, Nick Howell. Thank you so much for joining us today for this special event. As you just heard, if you watched the premiere there with Chris Cornwall and some of our executives, we are launching lots of new stuff today, and we're going to go over it all here on the show in some deeper details. First, make sure you join us in the community over in Discord. You can go to discord.gg/NetApp or netappdiscord.com to find over 5,000 practitioners and fellow peers. Some of our support staff and even our executives and our guest today hangs out in there. So make sure you come and join the community. That's where you can find out anything you need to know about today's launch or anything in the future or solve any problems you might have. I want to get right to it because we put up lots of information today. We are going to go over each of those. There's hardware things, there's software things, there's security things, and we want to get to all of them. So without further ado, let me bring my guest up on the show here. He is a friend of the show. We formally have nicknames for him, one of which I'm wearing on my shirt today. He is the one and only Jeff Bezel, Mr. Jeff Baxter, our VP of Product Marketing. Jeff, thank you for joining the show, man.
Hey, Nick. Thanks for having me. I'm just so happy when my name popped up. It didn't say Jeff Bezel. I was half thinking you would have changed it by now.
I almost did, but I figured this was
did.
kind of official, and we didn't want to,
Yes.
but we did it before, so it's fine. Yes. Mr.
I don't know
Bezel's
if I
back
should
in
be
the
calling
house.
you Mr. Howell or Mr. Dude. I'm not sure what the right greeting is.
The dude, I think is
okay. Gotcha.
Jeff, we just heard from Chris and some of our executives around NetApp on various perspectives from the partner side, from the sales side, from the product side about the new innovations and new products that we launched today. Just give me your big take on like what this really means, and then we'll get into some of the details.
Yeah. So I think from a high level, we've been on almost an 18-month journey here of just massive innovation in our on-prem enterprise storage environment. And that's not to say that we're not also innovating in cloud and every place else, but we're in the midst of sort of a massive refresh and re-up and significant sort of performance boost and density boost and everything of our entire on-prem portfolio. And today we were super pleased to extend that to the ASA A-series. And so you heard Chris and the team and John Shirley announced that the new ASA A-series, which we announced at the tail end or the middle of 2024, we've now extended all the way down to the entry and mid-range level with these new ASA A-series systems. And I think that plus, as you alluded to, some cybersecurity news is really the big news that we're bringing forward today to the market.
Yeah. I'm excited about these because, even earlier in my career, a lot of times you would see sort of almost bespoke storage appliances specific to a particular workload. It's interesting to see that come full circle as we're seeing that, 20 to 30 years later, starting to come back to being a thing as the prices of things tend to start driving down and become a little more commoditized. It becomes more normal to have SSD everything. It becomes more normal to have some of these appliances, especially at the edge and small corporate office locations and things like that. Having that appliance that's dedicated to that user set, that specific workload, rather than big, large, monolithic racks full of things in central locations. I'm just curious on your take on that. Are we seeing a sort of, do I call it a democratization of storage across some of these things, and we're making that simpler with ONTAP?
Yeah, I think for sure. I think there's two aspects to that. One is NetApp has always been really good, and ONTAP has really been good on taking the innovations that are typically had only been available on these high-end frame arrays and bringing them into modular arrays and then bringing them all the way down to the entry level and having the same capabilities all the way up and down the stack, with the only difference being, performance and capacity limits. And so that has certainly led to that. And now with all flash and the prices dropping to where they are, you're right. It can go all the way out to very small data centers, commercial shops, SMB, even out to the edge. And then I think the other aspect of it is for people that aren't familiar with, as we're talking about the ASA, I think most people are, but just in case, the ASA is our all-flash SAN array. It's a block optimized version of ONTAP. And it's kind of interesting to explain to people because ONTAP is fundamentally unified. But I think one of the things NetApp is pretty good about is listening to the market and listening to our customers. When our customers said is, we get it. You can do unified, you can do block on unified. In fact, we have 20,000 customers that do block on unified. So block on NetApp is certainly nothing new, but we have customers who said, we want to still have our block and file separate. We want to have something that's just optimized for block, but for a lot of environments, that either means two different vendors or two different product lines with two different incompatible operating systems to run block and file. And what we came and said is, okay, we can optimize for block. We can have a separate block environment, but what if it runs ONTAP? What if it's the exact same operating system? So that's what we have. We have AFF that still gives you the same unified experience you've known and loved, and ASA that's this block optimized solution that really narrows in on these block workloads and just provides the absolute best block storage solution without having to compromise, without all the, we call it block storage without the blockers. Getting rid of all of these individual sort of silos that you typically have with block storage and just getting to pure storage.
When you say the phrase block workloads, what does that typically entail? What would you categorize as a block workload in as part of this kind of conversation?
Yeah, and I think for technology purists, they'll recognize that there isn't by definition such a thing as a block workload, right? When we talk about block storage protocols, we're talking about traditionally Fiber Channel and iSCSI, and more recently things like NVMe over Fiber Channel and NVMe over TCP. That's everything the ASA runs. Traditionally, the workloads that in the market run the most on block storage protocols are things like databases, high-end online transaction processing or ERP systems. You think of a lot of your mission-critical applications. And then a ton of VMware workloads typically will run on either VMFS or vVols running on block storage. And so those are a perfect natural fit for the ASA as well.
Yeah. Well, I love that introduction. Let's get right into the meat, the gooey geeky details of this stuff. Because I think we're going to talk a little bit more about what each of the things are and how they complement the entire portfolio that you were alluding to that we've been building over the last 18 months there at the beginning.
Yeah. So we got up on screen just the primary here. There are three new systems, the A20, A30, and A50. I'll get into the guts of them in a minute, but basically you can tell they're all the same form factor, right? 2 rack units high. What typically varies on each of them is the capacity and performance, and we'll get into those specific numbers in a second. But they finished fleshing out the entire ASA A-series line and are designed around basically 3 different principles, right? Incredibly simple. We want people to be able to set these up in a matter of minutes. We actually had those of you who were at Insight or saw some of the pictures from NetApp Insight back in September, saw we actually did an ASA challenge and challenged everyone who was there to set up an ASA system, provision storage, and protect it in a single click. And the times that were coming in were like 1.5 minutes, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes from people who had not actually touched the console of a NetApp system in a long time. And that just shows the power of how simple it can be. And we want it to be incredibly powerful. So some of these systems are 40% faster than their predecessors. The A50 is 140% faster than its predecessor. So just even though it's in a 2U incredibly dense package, still incredible power from these entry and mid-range systems. And we're able to make them incredibly affordable with all flash, with this block optimized package. Customers are now able to get into these high performance, ultra low latency, sub 1 millisecond latency block optimized solutions for as little as $25,000 and
Wow.
US dollar price. Obviously your pricing will vary and we don't set pricing through our partners or anything like that, but we have seen end pricing, on the lowest end systems here getting down to that $25K price. And like you said, really democratizing access to this sort of advanced storage capabilities.
Yeah, I've seen some servers not be that inexpensive,
Right.
much less entire storage systems.
Yep.
So you mentioned that I wanted to just highlight a couple of things. Not only did we have the SAN challenge, 60-second SAN challenge in the expo last year at Insight, it was also a featured part of the keynote. We actually brought in an intern that had never managed storage before, and they were able to provision storage from an ASA, the ASA optimized version of ONTAP in 60 seconds, which is incredible because I spent a week at a class learning ONTAP when I got my first system. And to be able to do it in 60 seconds, having never touched one, is pretty incredible. The second point I wanted to make is just for clarity here, I don't know if we're going to go over the entire thing, but I just want to call out last year we did the 70, the 90, and the 1K versions, right? So now we've got the 20, the 30, and the 50, really completing the lineup at just about any tier of capacity and performance that was most comfortable for our customers, for our users, right?
Yep, I'll just pull it up right
Oh,
here since you
I,
segued right to it. No, you got right to it. I will say just for completeness, it's kind of funny. People always wonder in those videos, like, is it real? Is it an actor? That was an actual intern on my team, right? So we weren't making it up. Actual intern on our team, and we weren't saying, oh, she's not bright. She's incredibly bright. She was an awesome intern, but didn't come in being a NetApp storage admin, like you said. She
right.
hadn't gone to a week-long class, and so literally, I was sitting in the studio behind the camera while we were shooting that video, and that was one of her first chances working, hands on with the system. And sure enough, it was a couple minutes because the goal is don't take away any of the power in ONTAP. If you want to drop to the CLI, if you want to issue API commands directly to it, all the power in the world is there. But we want to make it incredibly easy for even IT generalists to just go in and set the system up.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you said, this is part of a refresh of the entire line. Last year we introduced the A70, A90, and A1K. So the A20, A30, and A50 really complete this refresh of the ASA A-series line.
Nice. This is beautiful coverage. Like, you could have any type of workload at any kind of location of any size or density, and have a system on this screen here for any block workload that it could complement. This
Yeah,
is
and
it. I mean, congratulations on this, because I know the amount of work that this took and the year plus that was spent sort of getting all of this out the door. Just the public stuff that we know about now as of today. This has been an amazing journey to see this come to life. And it's not to say nothing for the AFF A-series and C-series stuff that's going on. So all of this put together, where do you see as like a good starting point for folks? So how should they evaluate? What would be the right, if you were to sizing exercise this for
sure.
somebody? How do they evaluate when they're looking specifically at an ASA box for a block workload? It's a little bit different as a sizing exercise than you would for a traditional AFF or FAS system.
A little bit. I mean, a lot of the things are in common, but you definitely want to size for an ASA. I will say real quick, thanks for the recognition. It really does belong to a lot of the customers and partners that guided us to what they wanted to see in market, and then just an amazing product management engineering teams that have delivered all this innovation. I think one of the cool things is there aren't any hard stops on the line where it's like, hey, you got to get to a certain level to get this feature, right? And so really anywhere you start is going to be okay. If anything, you can always grow into some of the performance or some of the capacity if you go a little bit too high in the line. I think you'll find an incredibly helpful NetApp partner ecosystem out there, or NetApp employees who can help you size the exact right thing. We have these tools internally, we call it Fusion, that allows customers to go ahead and put in their workloads and size to exactly the right performance level. I think the most important thing to point out is no matter where you start, it's completely non-disruptive to upgrade and move up to later systems. So even if you start at an A30 and later on feel like you need to go to an A50 or you need to go up to an A90, we have non-disruptive ways to go there. You also, and this is relatively still unusual on the SAN side, scale out SAN is still a part of the ASA A-series. So being
Yeah.
able to scale out, add additional nodes, do whatever you need to do to be able to grow to the capacity you want over time. You don't need to over provision from the start. You can buy the capacity, you can buy the controllers you need. And as your workloads evolve, you can add additional storage, you can add additional capacity and scale out completely seamlessly and non-disruptively over time. So there really isn't, I know I'm not exactly ducking the question, but it's always an it depends sort of answer. And it doesn't matter
Absolutely.
where you start because we have a non-disruptive way for you to expand and grow over time.
No, I was hoping to lead you into the scale out discussion, because I
Yeah.
think people can start with the smaller A20, A30, and maybe the workload grows over time over the course of a year or two and you need to expand it more. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to jump straight to an A90. That means that you can then add another pair, either 20, 30, 50, and another pair and another pair and another, up to 12 total nodes in a single cluster that will operate seamlessly across all of those nodes using some of our ONTAP technology. So don't think that you're locked into one of these smaller boxes if you want to start small. There are a lot of ways that you can scale up and scale out
Yeah.
across these various systems.
Yeah, like we were showing on the slide, if we put it back up for a second, they start as low as 15 terabytes of raw capacity, and if you scale these suckers up all the way into a cluster, you can see even by the mid range, by the A70 or so, you can get up to about 70 petabytes of effective capacity in a cluster, right? So an order of magnitude, or more than order of magnitude, 1,000 times the effective capacity from all the way at your sort of entry raw starting point to the effective capacity you get on a fully scaled out cluster. There is room in here from a performance standpoint and a capacity standpoint for everything from the very smallest entry level VMware workloads. You just want to stand up a small set of VMs to run your entire enterprise on, or your entire small business, to supporting a massive mission critical enterprise workload. And all of it can be seamlessly, non-disruptively scaled on the same exact operating system.
Yeah, that's fantastic. How does this? How do you would? How do I want to ask this the right way? I'm trying to think of how to phrase this for existing customers, for our existing install base that's out there that may be using one of the AFFs or FAS for various use cases out there. Why would they specifically want to entertain a dedicated sandbox over what they in addition to what they already have? And can that go into the same cluster as the other systems?
Yeah, so right now, you do have separate clusters for the ASA systems and the AFF systems. It starts to get a little bit confusing with some of the unique features we have on the ASA systems, such as symmetric active-active multipathing, if it's available on one node in a cluster, but not on another node in a cluster. So we
Yep.
didn't want to. Part of the simplicity initiative is literally keep it simple. So if you want a block optimized environment, you probably want an all block optimized environment. And so you can scale out that cluster. It is a separate cluster than your AFF cluster, but um, almost all the APIs are in common. You have unified management across them. You have System Manager on both. You have Blue XP that can manage both of them side by side. And you have the ability to start moving data between them and do other things there within a common ecosystem environment, because it is all ONTAP. But yeah, so in general, you can kind of mix and match different nodes of different ASA types within that scale out cluster.
I wanted to throw our first question up for the day before we get back to the slides. From Pedro, he says, "Is the VM to LUN visibility feature that was announced for ASA is that also something that's seen in FAS and AFF, or is that exclusive to ASAs?"
You know what? I'm going to double check on that. I'll have to get an answer back for Pedro in a second on this. I believe the VM to LUN feature is also available for FAS and AFF solutions, but I'll double check and get you an answer.
Awesome.
I'm
Thanks,
I'm
Pedro.
paging experts right now on my other screen. Hold on, operators are standing
Beep, beep,
by.
beep, beep, beep,
So
beep, beep, beep,
yeah,
beep. Yep.
exactly.
All right. We'll find out and get back to you, Pedro. Hang tight.
Yep, yep.
All right. So we went through the family. We went through all of the systems that are available out there. Where do we go from here?
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of different things. First of all of the programs that are available for the ASA are, of course, available for these entry and mid-range systems. Um, Things like the storage lifecycle program. So we were talking about how easy it is to non-disruptively upgrade. A lot of customers have come to us and said, we want you to build that tech refresh, that hardware refresh directly into the ongoing operating cost of the system. So that storage
Mm,
lifecycle program is available for the ASA. And I point out this is an option. We don't like to shoehorn customers into one particular place. One of the things I love about NetApp, one of the reasons I've been at NetApp for 17 years is, guys, it's been 17 years? Yeah, 17 years, is that we don't tell you this is the right place to put your data. We give you options and we lead you with data to where we think are the best places. But if you want to be on-prem, if you want to be block optimized, if you want to be unified, if you want to be in the cloud, we have options. Similarly, when you're getting an ASA system, if you want to just buy it as traditional CapEx, we're not going to tell you that's wrong. In fact, we'll gladly sell it to you. If you want it as a service entirely, we have NetApp Keystone, where we'll provide everything for you. We'll run the system for you, and we'll do it all by service levels. And if you want to still buy it, still hold title to it, still manage it, but you never want to pay for a tech refresh again, that's where the storage lifecycle program comes in. And it's like one of those new every two programs for iPhones or any other sort of phones out there. It's a gimmick, but it's a fully disclosed gimmick up front, where you're basically baking the cost of the tech refresh into your support payments over time. And even though fundamentally the financials are roughly the same, for a lot of customers, just the financial engineering of not having to go out and get a huge amount of CapEx every 3 or 4 or 5 years makes it worthwhile. And so we've
yeah.
got the storage lifecycle program, obviously the 4-to-1 storage efficiency guarantee. The ASA is incredibly resilient, incredibly reliable across that massive install base that we have. We have the telemetry to know that we average above 6 nines of uptime. And so we're able to offer a 6 nines data availability guarantee. So I forget how many seconds that is, 20 something seconds, 30 seconds a year, right, of downtime at most.
At
But we
most, I
basically
think it's
guarantee
less
it.
than that.
I think it's less than that, right? So
Yeah.
it's that sort of guarantee is built in. And then obviously we have this ransomware recovery guarantee that'll kind of lead into some of the cyber announcements we're going to talk about in a minute. All of these are built into to have a complete not it's not just a system, it's an entire life cycle experience that we want customers to be able to have, an entire best in class ownership experience, as we call it.
Yeah. And I think other than the 6 nines of availability, I mean, this is stuff that extends beyond ASA, right?
Yeah. So, all other than the 6 nines availability, yes. So we have the 4-to-1 storage efficiency guarantee for any sort of SAN workloads. We have slightly different efficiency guarantees for NAS workloads, just because a lot of those come pre-compressed or with other sort of data structures in place. But we have a storage efficiency guarantee for NAS, as well as the 4-to-1 storage efficiency guarantee for SAN on our unified systems. The storage lifecycle program is available across all of them. The ransomware recovery guarantee is available across all of them. And then, yeah, you're right. The 6 nines data availability guarantee, that's where we really reserve that for the block optimized
Yeah, and
solutions.
that's just for the multipathing stuff, the special
Yeah.
adaptive multipathing we're doing with the ASAs. So
Yeah, absolutely.
very, very cool. Question from Khaled came in, said, does ASA come with the disaggregated storage, assuming what was announced at Insight by Krish,
Yeah.
or does it still have aggregate storage as a base?
It's a great question. So it is not the disaggregated storage yet that we've announced that vision for. We announced that vision back in September at Inside 2024, and we basically said, stay tuned. Our goal and our intent is to have that available in customers' data centers by the time we get around to Insight 2025, which is coming up in October. And I can tell you our intent still rings true there. So, but we're not quite at October 2025 yet. We still got what is that, 6 months, something like that, 7 months.
Is it
God,
just
math
six
is
months?
hard. 8 months, I guess. Wow, I don't
Okay.
know. I'm living in the future sometimes, Nick. You
Yeah.
know, so um, what I can say though, with the new ASA systems, and this includes the new systems that we're announcing today, we did do a lot of simplification of them so that you're not having to manage a whole bunch of different constructs. And so you do end up with one single global aggregate for your entire HA pair. So although it's not disaggregated across the entire cluster, you can think of it as essentially disaggregated within the HA pair, because our intention and why we made it so easy for that intern and for everyone else to set up in a couple of minutes is we're not saying they're saying set up your RAID groups, set up your aggregates, set up flex files, set up LUNs, do all this. We're just saying just create a LUN. And we go ahead and handle that LUN and place it on the single global shared storage pool for that HA pair. And so it's not the full disaggregated storage vision, but if you squint at it, you can see the steps that we're taking to get there, because we're not just making one big jump from where we were to there. The ASA R2 is actually, although we don't advertise it this way, is a stepping stone on that path, because we've made it a lot easier within the HA pair to just set up a LAN.
Yeah. Some of the things we're doing in ASA, if you look at what we're doing with flex groups, like a lot of it is heading in that direction from an ONTAP perspective. Like we don't want really people managing RAID groups and aggregates so much anymore. Like obviously you have your they'll be there as constructs under the covers. And sure, if you're storage geeky enough, like I love to be, that you want to go in there and you want to manage all of that stuff, absolutely. But the innovations around ADP, around flex groups, around some of the stuff that we're doing with the multipathing, fantastic kind of stuff that's going to simplify the entry of, especially for new customers that are coming in managing their first system.
Yep, absolutely.
Another quick call out here from Ollie. Love the NVMe active pathing in 9.16.1.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great
Yeah,
stuff.
we continue to push toward the state of the art, and we want to support traditional protocols. We want to support all these new NVMe protocols, and it was always our intent to be able to deliver these full active pathing solutions, including for NVMe protocols. So that 9.16.1, there you go.
Yep. All right, back to it.
Yeah. So I think this is a good point to sort of close out on the enterprise storage piece, and what we're really showing here is basically anywhere you need to be. We've now come out with refreshes. We're now in a good place in terms of having, we still have solutions for hybrid flash. Everyone wants to say disk is dead. I think I still have my bumper sticker from 15 years ago that says tape is dead, right? Well, last I checked, right, tape still has a place, as much as we might, and not from NetApp, but just I'm honest in saying tape still has a place. It's the same sort of people who for a decade have been saying disk is dead. Well, the people who typically say that are the people who don't ship disk. I mean,
Right.
shocking, right? It's shocking, right? what we say is that, yeah, you're typically not putting production workloads on disk anymore, but for secondary workloads, for building cyber vaults, for just storing really cold tiered data, FAS still makes perfect sense. So we refreshed FAS pretty recently. And then capacity flash continues to take off like a rocket, right? We've said that the C series, our AFF C series, was the fastest growing product in NetApp history, and that's a true statement. People are
It's still
continuing
the
to take
case
advantage.
today, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
believe so. I haven't checked in the last week, but I think it's still the case. So, the AFF C series and the ASA C series have just taken off like rocket ships in terms of offering that balance. And then the AFF A series and the ASA A series, including the new systems we announced today, offer that absolute best performance for mission critical workloads. And you have your choice between the unified on the top and the block optimized on the bottom, but it all runs on tap. And I think
Yeah.
that's the key is you sometimes see this portfolio slides from competitors or others where they have just as many systems and people say, "Oh my God, you NetApp, you're becoming like all the other competitors." Yeah, but it's all on tap, right? They have different shiny bezels on the back. I'm doing that in case anyone's doing a drinking game when I say bezel, but we have the shiny bezels on the front, but underneath it's all on tap and you
Yeah.
get the same learn once, deploy many, common APIs, common infrastructure, common data services. That makes it incredibly easy to pick the right solution, but join it all into a common intelligent data infrastructure.
And I don't want to leave our friends in the cloud behind either. I mean, all of the FSx ONTAP in AWS, Azure NetApp files in Microsoft Azure, GCNV over in Google Cloud, all of those also run ONTAP. And
Yeah.
they can all be managed through BlueXP. Or you can, as you said, you can have the as a service offering in one of our strategic partners, data center partners, as a service with Keystone.
Yep.
All of this is ONTAP.
All of it. Yeah, this slide is giving a little short shrift on the icon side just because it's supposed to be, focused on the on-prem side, but we could just
Yeah.
easily flip it, right? And
Yeah.
and like you said, AWS FSx for NetApp ONTAP, Microsoft Azure NetApp Files, Google Cloud NetApp Volumes, all of them ONTAP running in the cloud, most notably as first-party native offerings from those cloud providers, and that is the power, right? We have the sort of marketplace offering where you can run your own with Cloud Volumes ONTAP, but we continue to innovate there. But the real magic and the real cool part is, all three of the biggest public clouds in the world came to us and said, "We see the magic that is ONTAP. We actually want to OEM it and run it natively ourselves and offer it as a service." And that's what they've done.
Yeah.
And that just is tremendous power. Like I said, it's one of the things that makes me so happy to be at NetApp is not forcing customers into any one corner to meet our whims, but meeting them wherever they are and wherever their data is, but still having the power of ONTAP there. And we're continuing to deliver on that promise today.
Yeah. Question here from John Woodall says, "What about observability for workloads? Has there been any changes to DII specific to ASA?"
Yeah, so I think there was some allusion to it. So first of all, Mr. Woodall, welcome to NetApp. Congrats.
Yes.
Yes, we're so happy to have you here at NetApp as a NetApp employee, completing your hat trick. Very cool. A good friend of mine. So yeah, I think we made some announcements in the announcement. You can go into the blog for additional details that were asked in that previous question about in DII being able to, that's data infrastructure insights, by the way, to unpack that acronym,
The
formerly
artist
known.
formerly known as Cloud Insights. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's kind of funny when you rename something to emphasize, hey, it does the cloud too, and then everyone goes, oh, it doesn't do on-prem anymore. You're like, no, we over-rotated there maybe. So it's all about your data infrastructure, your intelligent data infrastructure, regardless of where it
Yeah.
is. We can give you insights on it for data infrastructure insights. And in this release, we basically gave additional visibility to be able to dive down all the way from a VMware layer down into a LUN layer and provide real visibility across an entire SAN. Um, you know, in normal cases, it's good to have, but especially in a troubleshooting environment where someone's picking up the phone and blaming the storage, being able to actually drill down and see what's going on in the path, if it is a storage issue, where it's going on, especially if it's in a fiber channel environment where it could be at the SAN switch layer, it could be at the HBA layer, it could be in the host, it could be in the storage, right? And being able to track that down. So yeah, there's a lot of observability enhancements, and I would kind of point you to the specific blogs we've released today to provide some additional details.
Miles Neep, one of the key tech marketing engineers or principal engineers for DII, hangs out in Discord with us. So
Hmm.
come hang out, come ask your questions, anything related to DII over in Discord. It's a great way to come and meet the experts.
Yep.
All right, so I love as a NetApp enthusiast first, if I can take my NetApp badge off for a second. it gives me great joy to see that we have reached this. I don't want to call it a finality because we're not
No,
done,
no.
but I feel like we've reached this point where we can go, okay, everything's refreshed. We got everything good.
Yeah.
I know they're working on PCIe like version 7 out there, and we got some work to do, but it feels very good to have everything sort of modernized, updated. We've got the latest capacities in our NVMe drives. We've, even though, Solidime and Western Digital are out there doing 120 terabyte drives.
No comment.
Exactly. I think about this as I'm so happy right now for us and for our customers to have access to one of the most modernized, centralized portfolios of storage systems and products that are out there to manage anything data related that they have. It's been a long time since I've had that feeling.
Yeah.
It's a really long time, because between cluster stuff that we did 10 years ago to cloud stuff that we've been doing for the last few years, I know there's been a lot of scuttlebutt out in the market about, NetApp forgot about storage. No, we didn't.
No, we didn't.
No, we didn't.
No, we didn't.
We've been busy. Here it is.
Yes.
It's all refreshed. It's all there. Fantastic. Congratulations to Harv's entire group, to your entire group, to everybody that has worked on this and made it a reality, because it's a really fantastic achievement.
I kind of feel like it's the day after the new iPhones come out where
Yeah.
that Apple's already working on the next iPhone, and our innovation is never going to stop, right? I'd be lying if I didn't say that we were already planning what's the next generation after these many years from now, right? Because that's what you want your leading innovation partner to do, is never stop innovating. But we're at this really cool part now where we've just refreshed so much of our product line that it's this really awesome place to be on the cusp of the best performance, the best efficiency, the best density. Like you said, some of the largest drives out in the market now with 60 terabyte drives available on some of our capacity flash systems. It's a really cool time, and we're not going to stop innovating. But there's never a bad time to buy into ONTAP, and I'm not trying to get a sales commission here, but it's a pretty damn good time with all of these resources that we have and all these new systems.
I get excited because our job's done, and now we get to focus on some solutions, and we get to focus on our partners and helping them help our customers develop new solutions and implement new things and stuff like that. So I
Never
love
say your
the
job
focus.
is done, by the way.
Exactly. It's
No,
never done.
never
No,
done. Yeah,
no.
a lot of work to do.
Very important question for Jeff Bezel. Do they light up?
Of course they light up.
Of
They're new
course they light up.
systems, right? Of course they light up. So, I mean, I'm offended from average guy. So no, I'm just, no, all the new systems we've been coming out for the most part, at least on all the ONTAP models, will light up. They're actually, amusingly enough, it's not as easy as just putting a battery in it. There actually needs to be a pin to provide the power to it. So you can't just retrofit existing systems. But yeah, no, all of the new systems that we're coming out with on these ONTAP line will come with the light up bezels.
I mean, if you got a 5-volt power source, I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, if
you're handy,
if you're handy, and I mean, if you look at the bezel wall that we have at Insider, whatever, we clearly don't have 100 systems sitting behind that wall to run the
Right.
light up bezels, right?
Right.
They're all there. There's a very special friend I have in our Wichita office, and one of the things I love is he sends me new bezels where he's cut the end off of it and rewired it to run off USB power, right? And so that's the one I have
little
hanging in
battery
my
packs
office at home, and so just using battery packs. Actually, this is a complete detour, but one of my favorite completely unexpected moments was I plugged my bezel at home into a wall outlet. I turned the light switch off as I left the office, and it turned off. And I never realized that the light switch, for some reason, whoever had the house before me, turned on not just the light above, but one of the unlabeled outlets, and it happened to be the one I plugged the bezel in. So now I turn my light switch to my office on, and the bezel turns on, and it's just like greeting me good morning. It fills my bezel loving heart with joy every day I go into my home office.
That's amazing. You just need some home automation to turn on as like your alarm clock or something.
I do, right? Yeah, exactly. Just yell bezels anywhere in the house, and everyone lights up, right? So
yeah,
I'm surprised that's not already set up, honestly.
Exactly. All right, so we talked about all of the systems. There's been some advancements or extensions, I should say, for ARP, and I definitely want to highlight those with you today. What have we done with ARP?
Yeah, so this is big, and this is I want to be very clear up front. This is a vision. This is a preview. So this isn't shipping today, but NetApp, I think you've seen over the last year or so, we've gotten a little more aggressive and a little bit more open about sharing our vision openly about where we're going. So legal is going to tell me plans are subject to change. I got to say all that sort of thing. But we are building right now, and we're very confident in our intent to ship this later on this calendar year to extend our autonomous ransomware protection with AI software to our block storage systems. So this will be both the AFF systems running block, as well as the new ASA systems that we talked about. Traditionally, this autonomous ransomware protection with AI, just to back up for a second, that's our real time um, autonomous ransomware protection with a built in machine learning library that we constantly keep up to date. That on our file based systems is able to find, we basically got to third party validated 99% accuracy with no false positives to be able to detect ransomware in real time, take snapshots and alert you before it's basically too late to protect all your data. So, what we're saying is it's tougher to do that for block. We don't have all the signals.
Yeah.
So, we're not signaling exactly whether it's 99% or what it's going to be. But we're getting some really good, strong fidelity with putting in these machine learning models into it to the extent that even if it's a LUN, even if we don't have direct access to the file system, even if it's a VMware environment, we're able to see enough from the entropy to be able to pretty reliably detect ransomware attacks. And so, with that, um, still some work to do, still some validation to do, but we're feeling really confident about being able to extend this to block workloads, and that's just tremendously exciting for us.
Well, one of the things that was announced that I'm mostly excited about because, having been a former firewall installer slash operator, was there's a constant, almost daily, if not hourly, scan and update for new definitions as they're discovered, especially for large attacks, 0 days, things like that. I love this concept that we're going to be able to update parameters and definitions without having to rely on those being delivered via ONTAP updates.
Right.
So entire ONTAP updates to systems that can take weeks or months of planning and testing. Now we can just update those definitions autonomously and independently to the ONTAP upgrade. Talk to me about that process a little bit, if you can, and like what was that the motivation behind it, not
Yeah.
to hitch
Absolutely.
it directly to the ONTAP upgrade?
Yeah, we know that ONTAP upgrades are non-disruptive and, go off with a hitch the vast majority of time, but we also know that people are very conservative with their storage infrastructure, right? It's one of the things where if an individual VM goes offline, you have a bad minute, you have a bad hour, right? If your networking goes offline, you have a really bad day. If you lose your storage for whatever reason, right? Fire, whatever it is, that's a really bad week or month or whatever. So we know that even though we
It's a
have
resume generating event
resume
is what.
generating event, yeah.
Yes.
So we know that we provide incredibly high fidelity, non-disruptive ONTAP upgrades that, I don't know how many are happening at this exact minute, tens, hundreds, thousands. Um, but people tend to do them perhaps every 6 months or something, right? That's how often we typically release a major ONTAP upgrade. So maybe they do it every 6 months, maybe they do it every year. Even with patch releases, people may do it every month or every 2 months. We know that, as you said, new ransomware attacks can happen almost daily. It's not quite the same thing as a virus definition where you're having to put down a new definition for each virus. Because we're using machine learning and we're looking at patterns, we can detect ransomware attacks even without having seen them before in some cases. But certainly there are new ransomware attacks that come in where the patterns are unique enough that they fly just below the filter. So we have to set a filter, basically a signal to noise ratio filter. And this is what our data scientists do because, if you turn the dial too far one way, you catch more, but your false positives shoot up, right? So we try and hit that right nice down. So for file, we managed to get the dial exactly to the right place where we catch roughly 99% of attacks, but with no false positives. As new attacks come out, it can threaten that percentage, that 99%. So it can either make false positives more likely, or it could make our effectiveness fall down. So that's where we're constantly getting these ransomware attacks. We subscribe to multiple different. There are sources out there basically that'll be ransomware attack as a service is basically your subscription to the dark web, right? So we
Right.
subscribe to multiple of those services. We constantly have a sandbox that we do actually in our own private sandboxed off cloud environment, and we purposefully infect a bunch of files. And we constantly are training this machine learning model with this is what the clean files look like. This is what clean traffic looks like. This is what dirty files, encrypted files look like. Here's the difference. You learn. It learns, it generates new vectors. We can then send those vector embeddings down to your systems and join the machine learning already there so that it regains its fidelity basically even against the latest attacks. And that was very important for us to be able to do.
So this is us training a model with ONTAP internally. This is not like we're going out and downloading like third-party virus definitions, as you alluded to before.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So it's not. Yeah, it's not virus definitions in the strictest sense. We do for file side, we do certain things like look for common extensions because there's some extensions that just only appear in ransomware attacks. And if the ransomware attack is that unsophisticated, yeah, we're just going to flag that and stop it right in its tracks. But others don't do anything like that. They're not nice enough to change all the extensions to dot locked or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so that's where we need machine learning to solve it. And certainly if you go to the block side, there's no such thing as a file extension, right? There's no file
Right.
metadata that you're looking at. So you need to rely on patterns. You can't just look on definitions.
Yeah. Good point.
Hey,
I'm
I have an
excited about
update for you.
I'm resetting up my 250 that I've got back here. It's in learning mode right now. It usually takes about 30-ish days. I think it's been up for about 2 weeks.
Okay.
I'm excited to potentially I want to demonstrate some of this as well. I want to infect my system and see what happens. I'll have
Uh,
snapshots. I'll have mirrors and whatnot.
I salute you, sir, and I look forward to seeing you back online next month. So data center
Once it's done
dudes,
learning,
yeah, once it's done learning. You're really putting, your money where your mouth is, right?
yeah,
I love it. I love it.
yeah.
It's by the way, I did hear from sources that I've got on my other ear here that I think it was Pedro's question, the VMware to LUN visibility will work on any fiber channel connected LUN. So it's not just ASA only, it'll work for AFF as well. So
Yeah,
I think Chris or someone
your
else put it in the
superstar
chat.
host of the launch video that we watched before the show here, Miss Chris Cornwall, was in the chat responding to Pedro.
She already got off the set and is answering chat.
She's already off the set. She's out of the
amazing.
chair. She's demiked.
amazing.
She's hanging in the chat. So if you guys have any questions, be sure to jump in chat here and ask them away. We'll answer them live here on the show. This is not pre-recorded.
It is not pre-recorded. It is currently 8:53 Pacific time, Tuesday, February 11th. If you can see my watch to prove it. It's
And
like
I will
holding up
touch my
the
nose.
Yeah, it's like holding up the newspaper with today's headline, right?
Right.
To basically say, like, we promise it's not Memorex.
Speaking of ransomware.
Yes. Yeah.
So we've got updates to the portfolio. We're bringing AI, ARP AI to block workloads down the road.
Yep.
Subject to change.
Yep.
All of that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And there's been some additions to the way that we do detection as well, right?
Yeah, so there's a couple different things. It's not so much about the way we do detection. It's more we're now so confident, like you were saying, you're confident enough to infect your environment with ransomware. We don't recommend our customers do that. Just to be very clear, because legal right now is like setting off alarms in their office and they don't even know why. So we don't recommend you do that. Don't try this at home. Only a trained data center dude professional should try this. But we're so confident in our ability to detect ransomware, and this is for our current ARP for file systems, is that we're rolling out this new ransomware detection program. And so basically what we're saying is, and there are terms and conditions that apply, and you can read all of those online. But what we're basically saying is if you have everything set up according to all the best practices, we're going to assure you that we're going to catch ransomware attacks. And we're very honest, right? So we've said 99% over and over again. I absolutely hate vendors who say this is bulletproof and it's 100%, right? We know that people who offer 100% uptime guarantees, they're basically just doing the financial calculus to say, we know it's going to go down 0.1%, so we'll just pay people off then, right? NetApp doesn't do that in almost all cases. So what we're saying here is 99% of the time, we know we're going to catch the ransomware attacks. In the 1% of the time where it's gotten by everything else in your environment, and then it gets past our ransomware detection, congratulations, you've run into a very determined adversary, right? Someone on the cutting edge of ransomware, and there's always going to be 0 days. There's always going to be things out there. So you're having a really bad day. We don't want you to be alone in that really bad day. And so NetApp Professional Services will come in at no additional cost, no extra cost, and will help you recover from that ransomware attack. So there are some caps on it. I think it's something like 80-hour caps, but that should be plenty to recover from all your snapshots and get you back up and running. The real idea here is we feel so confident in it that we're not going to have to be constantly deploying our professional services out to doing this. This is going to be sort of that once in a moon, 1 in 100 sort of chance that it gets through. And then we're going to help you with professional services to recover. Of course, you have, because everything's been set up the right way to qualify for this program, you have your automatic tamper-proof snapshots kicking off. You have snapshots being done every hour. You can go ahead then and recover back to those snapshots, as you know, in a matter of seconds. You can have everything back up and online in a matter of hours. And that's why we're so comfortable having NetApp professional services there helping you along the way in those efforts should you need us.
Yeah. And just I want to harp on something you said there at the beginning. It was there is no way to bulletproof prevent these attacks from happening other than disconnecting the systems entirely.
Oh yeah.
Like, and even then you could have internal threats that have backdoored their way into getting in. So the only thing that we can do is be more accurate and more proactive once in the detection side of it, and what we do in the event that a detection occurs.
Exactly.
And I love that we've honed in on that. Yes, in a way you could categorize it as reactive, but it's constantly monitoring. It's constantly watching every block that's coming through and being written and read. Yeah. And I love the way that we're looking at this and the perspective that we have on it, because it's really the right way to do it.
Yeah, I think we look at, if you look at parts of the NIST framework, right, we always harp on, protect, detect, and recover. And you could be Pollyanna and just say, we're only going to talk about protect, or we're only going to talk about detection and just make it absolutely perfect. Again, I think that anyone who's been in this business for more than a minute knows to intrinsically distrust vendors who say, this is perfect and you will never have a rainy day and nothing will ever go wrong with our system, right? I think you can treat those as non-serious people, to be quite honest. And one of the things I take with pride about NetApp, and that I try to have personal integrity about in my own career, is being very honest, right? Because I've gone through downtime, right? With non-NetApp systems, with NetApp systems, with other parts of my infrastructure, more than NetApp systems, to be quite honest. But everything has rainy days. What matters is, do you have a vendor who's going to be there with you? And do you have a vendor who's intellectually honest enough about it to have a belt and suspenders approach, right? We are going to protect you from ransomware attacks. We are going to do everything in our power to stop them from even hitting the system. Okay, that fails. Now we're going to detect the ransomware attacks in real time, and we're going to automatically take snapshots, and we're going to automatically alert you. And 99% of the time, that'll stop it in its tracks, and you'll be all set, and you'll be back up in minutes. Okay, that fails. That's the 1%. Now we still have your snapshots in place. You're still using tamper-proof snapshots. So even though the attacker got in, he encrypted all your data, we didn't detect it in real time. All your snapshots, they tried to delete all your snapshots. They're tamper-proof. They can't delete them, even if they have administrative privileges. Now you can restore from your snapshots. Okay, someone went in, insider threat, and took an axe to your system. Okay, our guarantee does not cover someone taking an axe to your system. As cool as that would be, we haven't invented force fields, but light up bezel force fields would be pretty cool. Yet,
do you have a vision slide for that?
Vision slide of force fields. Yeah, it just has a picture of the Enterprise. But
the light up bezel was just the beginning.
Yeah, light up bezel. It has like the sentry mode on the Teslas, where if you get too close, the bezel becomes so bright that it blinds the attacker. It's like a flashbang.
Well, it's the Cylons, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So we've gone way off track. But
no, I agree with you, because one of the things, even 20 years ago, guys, one of the most common contracts that I would take were going in and working with companies to create their DR run books. And they would be these large 3-inch, 3-ring binders. And I would jokingly call them the IT team gets hit by a bus. What happens? What do you do? And we would go through these test exercises to define we would completely replicate their infrastructure. We would destroy it. I would go in and do something destructive, and I would not let any of the IT people touch it.
Exactly.
And because there has to be, and you have to define it by, is it localized to that one system? Is it city, regional? Is it, nationwide? Is there a smoking hole scenario? Is the building completely gone?
Yeah.
The business must continue to go on. What do you do in that? And that we literally wrote out every step in that. And if you're not doing that kind of stuff now, and you have mission critical workloads for a business behind you, what happens if you get hit by a bus and you're the only guy that knows all the passwords, knows all the workflows, knows all the things? Document. We can help you prevent the The impact radius of the attack should one occur, but there needs to be a run book of some kind to recover from it. And I love that we have the PS offering, because if we've got the snapshots there and none of the IT team is available, our PS guys can go in and figure out how to help recover that stuff.
Yeah, I 100% echo everything you're saying. It's like even if they take an axe to it, right?
Yeah,
We unveiled this cyber vault concept, and that's one of the great places for the FAS, right? So you have a cyber vault that has all your data that's tamper proof, but someone still needs to know how to recover from it, right? And so um, it's all part of this ecosystem of offerings that. And you put up on screen here this timeline. We talk about NetApp as the most secure storage on the planet. And yes, that's a marketing tagline, but we have a lot of wood behind the arrow, and we have certifications that no one else has, right? We were the first certified, basically, enterprise storage system by the US government to store top secret data on a commercial enterprise storage system. You don't get that by submitting a paper application saying, "Can you sign my paper, please?" Right? Like, you get that by someone taking your system to an undisclosed place in the woods and hammering on it. Same thing with things like being the first to be on the US Department of Defense approved products list, so on and so forth down the line. And then we introduce all these concepts from all the way back in, Dave Hitz and James Lau writing snapshots directly into Waffle, into ONTAP, back in the 1990s, through, building these SEC compliant snap law capabilities into building in multi-factor authentication, being one of the first vendors to introduce autonomous ransomware protection for files, having this ransomware recovery guarantee, having the ransomware detection program, adding AI into ARP, saying in the future we're going to extend it to block. It's just this drumbeat of innovation, because saying you're the most secure storage in the world is a point in time statement. If you don't keep innovating, it's not going to be true a year from now. And
correct.
we have an entire group. If you look at how NetApp is internally structured, I won't go into a lot of details, but we have a key central platform team that works on ONTAP. We have a whole team and a GM that works on enterprise storage. We have a GM that works on cloud storage, but we have a GM, an SVP and GM who works on data services, and key among those is security. So just as important for us as our on-prem systems and our cloud storage is keeping them secure and keeping data services. We consider that a top level priority of the entire company to be the most secure storage on the planet. And so you're going to see us continue to innovate there day in and day out. I can't tell you anything roadmap sort of thing on this, because otherwise, like, my feed will suddenly shut and you'll see a lawyer come off screen and tackle me. But I can tell you, I'm sitting in sessions every day with the GM of that unit, and we're talking about all the fantastic innovations they're working on to make this timeline continue on into the future. It is not a one and done. We're going to continue to make it easy to protect, detect, and recover.
Yeah,
And that's the thing I love about our commitment to our customers' data. Is it's not just a tagline. It's not just oh, we're going to sell you more systems if we do this. We take the fact that ONTAP is the enterprise storage OS that is probably underneath the majority of data out there, or at least the plurality of data out there. And if you are sitting in that position of responsibility, you have to own it. You have to take that seriously. It is not just a thing to do because we work here. It's a calling as well that we take incredibly seriously, that our customers trust us with their data, with their lifeblood of their business. And if you don't take that trust seriously, if you don't take all 30 plus years of your DNA and thousands of engineers and apply it seriously to that trust to continue to come out with security features, you do not belong in the enterprise storage industry.
yeah. And don't take our word for it.
Nope.
Listen to the NSA.
Yep.
It's publicly out there that the NSA categorized us as such.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I love it. I'm super proud of all the work that we've done here around ransomware protection and helping people protect their systems, or better said, to prevent impact radius of those attacks from anything else. Does that close us out, Jeff?
Yeah,
Do we have
I
some,
think
some other couple other things?
there's some other things in the launch. We did some great refreshes of our E-series systems. We have some new FAS updates and other things like that. I don't think we want to overload people in just this one session. There is a limit. I think the main things we wanted to get across were the new ASA A-series systems and all these new security enhancements. But there's a ton out there, right? So
Yeah.
check out netapp.com, check out LinkedIn, check out wherever you go to get your source of information. Join the Discord. I see you put the blog link up there. There's a ton of blogs available today where we talk not just about these announcements, but about several other announcements that came out today.
Yeah, and if you're watching this not live later, check the description. I'm going to have all of the links to all of these blog posts from our executives, from Jeff, from John. I think Gagan did one as well.
Yeah.
We're going to have all of those in the description of the video down below. And like Jeff said, come join us in Discord.
Yeah.
We've got all of them. We put up a big announcement post with links to them this morning. So yeah, Jeff, thank you so much, man. I'm really excited. There's almost kind of a relief that we've gotten to this point. Like, everything's refreshed now. We've got A-series, AFF, ASA, and C-series all out there, and I'm just like,
I don't know what you're talking about. My next meeting is on the next launch. All right, I don't get a break, Nick. We don't get a break. Well, it's constant drumbeat of innovation, man. Constant drumbeat of innovation. No, but yeah, incredibly exciting day. Loved coming into work today on launch day. It's one of our favorite days of the year because you're right. It's like our Christmas. We can take a quick breath. We can celebrate what we released, and then take a breath, and then on to the next. It's awesome.
Let me see if there's any final questions here real quick. What's up, Sandra? Said the most secure storage on the planet.
She would know.
A-team leader, Sam Moulton says, great show. Did she say something about, oh yeah, there's a Tech on Tap podcast episode coming as well, I think featuring some of our A-team members. If you're not subscribed to Tech on Tap, make sure you're subscribed over there. And yeah, so thanks everybody for joining us today. Thank you, Jeff, again, for being on the show and being so willing to communicate with the community here about what we've got coming for them and what's in store. And I'm excited to make NetApp On Air the vehicle for that.
Yeah. Thanks, Nick. You do a great job. And you and your whole team. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. All right, guys. Well, there we go. That is our launch episode for everything you heard about today from NetApp. Thanks again to Jeff Baxter for being on the show and for giving us all of the details. Like he said, there's other things today than what we talked about. So make sure you go and check out the new, the EF stuff coming out of the E-series updates. And we've also got, I believe it's some FAS things. I'll have to go double check. There's blogs out there for all of it. There's too much to go over all at once. We decided just to go over the big ones for you today. Drew, thank you so much for throwing that up on the screen. You can also go to netapp.com/blog, and that will have some of our executive blog posts. But again, I'll put those down in the link for you. We'll be back next week with our regularly scheduled episodes. Make sure you're subscribed here to the channel. If you enjoyed what you saw today, leave a like down below. It really does help. We really appreciate it. But we'll see you guys next time. Take care.